Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me so much pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Professor Benoy K Behl. Today's talk is the 26th in the monthly series Glimpses of Culture. What is not very well known about Professor Benoy K Behl is that he has been an amazing traveler. He has perhaps seen more of India, including remote and high altitude places, than any other living person. Where there were no motorable roads, he has gone on horseback. From 2002 till the last published Limca Book of Records, every year Professor Behl was awarded the record for being the most traveled photographer. As a labor of love, Professor Behl has traveled to all corners of this vast subcontinent, documenting even remote temples and sites, not just once, but several times. The result is a breathtaking documentation of culture which provides us a new perspective to Indian and Asian art and culture. His recent book on the art of India, in two beautiful volumes, is a bestseller and is already in its third print run. With his deep philosophic understanding, warmth, and sense of humanity, he leads us through all the diversity and richness of this vast country. Ladies and gentlemen, Benoy K Behl presents today Living with Nature on the Culture of Nagaland in northeastern India. Over to Benoy now. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Sujata and Chatterji, for your very kind introduction. My many thanks to India Habitat Center for this yet one more occasion to share a chapter from the rich cultural history of this subcontinent. My many thanks to Doordarshan. Over all the years, over so many years, Doordarshan have lived so much up to its reputation, up to its mandate as a public broadcaster, and has sponsored the making of so many of my films, which are deeply researched and very serious films. Truly, in this time and age where people, most channels are just looking for quick returns and TRPs, Doordarshan has done an exemplary job of patronizing serious work. I am very grateful to them. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age which is constantly modernizing. And in the midst of all this development, are we sometimes forgetting our contact with nature? Nature, which is so basic, nature of which we are a part, do we sometimes lose our contact, our interaction, our kinship, our relationship with nature? As I say this, I think about an incident in when our embassy was arranging for my travel and documentation of the great monastery of Balkh in Afghanistan. We were going to Balkh through Mazar-e-Sharif. And at Mazar-e-Sharif, our hosts offered us these small natural grapes. How wonderful were those grapes! When I'm on the job, I remain constantly in a hurry to get on with the job and to not indulge any time in anything else. But I was stopped. Those grapes were so good. Those grapes were so sweet. Those grapes were so wonderful. And I thought to myself that this is the temptation of the earth, which it provides to other living creatures, animals, and birds, who will then help to propagate the species, to propagate the plant through the spreading of the seeds inside it. Amazing. And I also thought that somewhere way back in my childhood, I may have tasted fruit which tasted so good, something truly exceptional, something which you feel so happy when you eat. But unfortunately, we seem to have lost that kind of food altogether, it seems, in our modern age. In fact, from Mazar-e Sharif, we traveled as part of this Buddhist documentation tour that we were on. We traveled for Buddhist documentation from there into Uzbekistan and across Uzbekistan. And there again, it was daily having salads of very natural cucumber and tomatoes. Absolutely delightful, with so much taste in them, so much flavor in them, something which one has got so unused to. And tomatoes takes me straight to the forest tomatoes, which I ate in Nagaland. And these tomatoes are just wonderful, where in a large container, if we are cooking, and we may normally these days be cutting at least, let's say, 10 or 12 tomatoes. Just one small one of these forest tomatoes would be quite enough to flavor the food immensely. The flavor of the tomatoes, the sourness of the tomatoes, and there is so much else which is eaten in its natural state in Nagaland. Goes to show that in this rich country of ours, with its array of culture and nuances of culture, there is so much we can learn. And in this modern world where we are chasing so many things, chasing so much material advancement, chasing the idea of buying bigger and bigger cars, and so many things like that, in the midst of it all, are we somewhere losing contact with those things that really make life worth the living and make life a happy experience? And what about health? Because no matter how many tablets we eat of supplements, do they really make up for genuine nutrition coming from food, from fruits and vegetables and so many other things? And what about sustainability? We have in the world so many forests and jungles, fortunately, still some of them surviving. And is it possible that they contain not just the most nutritious, but also the most valuable treasure of sustainable sources of food? So, really, these are just open questions. But the point is that there are so many things which we can always learn, and we must, I think, always be open to learning. So, this film takes me, and I take you to an unusual subject area for myself. Most of the time, I've taken you to ancient and classic art and culture. And this time, I thought I will share with you living with nature in Nagaland. Sushant, would you please run the film? Thank you very much.
Over the past 31 years, I've had the joy of traveling repeatedly to many corners of this vast subcontinent that is India. It is amazing to see how landscapes, culture, food, music, dances, and even languages change every few hundred kilometers that you drive. You see the highest mountains of the world, great seas, bountiful rivers, and best of all, a people whose thoughts and heritage go back a few thousand years. Join us on an enthralling journey. I am traveling again across the whole of India to bring you spectacular India. Nagaland is a hill state located in the far northeastern part of India. It borders the state of Assam to the west, Arunachal Pradesh to the north, Manipur to the south, and Myanmar to the east. It is one of the smallest states of India. Nagaland is a mountainous state. The Naga hills rise from the Brahmaputra Valley in Assam. Most of the state is between 2,000 and 6,000 feet altitude. About 1/6 of Nagaland is under the cover of tropical and subtropical evergreen forests. These include palms and bamboo, as well as timber and mahogany forests. There are about 16 major tribes in the state of Nagaland. These include the Lothas, Angami, Ao, and Sumis.
The whole of Northeast is Mongolian, the Tibeto-Mongolian tribe. They came in at various times into this region. And some of them, they claim that they came in even 1000 years BC and settled here. And each tribe was living an independent life. In fact, we can say even every village was an independent kingdom carrying on without much communication among themselves.
Apart from cultural contacts with neighboring Assam, the Nagas had little or no contact with the outside world until the coming of British rule towards the end of the 19th century. More than 80% of the people live in rural areas. Nagas speak 60 different dialects. Each tribe has its own mother tongue. They communicate with each other in a common language which has been developed called Nagamese. Nagamese is not a mother tongue of any of the tribes, nor does it have a written script. English is the official state language. There is a great cultural richness and variety in this area, as each tribe was separately carrying on its independent life. It is a very colorful region. Each tribe has its own songs, their own shawls, their own colors, their own architecture.
1879, when the first British incursions took place in this part of the world, the first Nagas that encountered the British were the people from the village of Konoma.
There was a fierce battle fought here by the valiant Nagas. More than 35 villagers of Konoma lost their lives in the protection of their freedom. The British Army lost more than 500 sepoys and 4 officers.
This is a muzzle loading gun. It is locally made from this village, and especially the pipe, this was brought from the Assam plains, and here it is from this village this gun was made out, and it is used to fight against the Britishers during the British rule in India.
And even the village of Konoma was known for its bravery, bravado, and courage to fight against British in the olden days. But today it has become the protectors of nature, and it is the first village to declare itself as the first green village in India. The villagers are protecting an area of about 50 square kilometers of a core zone and 80 square kilometers of a buffer zone, where there is no hunting or foraging from the jungle.
It is fascinating to walk into a marketplace in Kohima, the capital of the state of Nagaland. There are numerous different kinds of leaves here which have been collected from the forest. I did not know that the forest had so many things which are edible. And not only are they edible, but they are very nutritious and quite delicious. Goes to show that there are many things which we need to learn from other cultures.
There are different varieties of leaves. Like every leaf, it contains like medicine. Like we have a kitchen garden at our home, and then we grow there every kinds of leaves. Like whenever we are sick or whenever we are not well, my mom she'll always take those leaves and then make a kind of medicine.
Let us take a walk through the marketplace in Kohima with Mr. Thomas. It is fascinating to see the vegetable, chilies, fish, and so many other things which are on sale here. The Naga people's close relationship with the natural world is best seen in the marketplace.
The Nagas live in complete harmony with nature, and they know the symbiotic relationship with nature because they are basically forest communities, and more than 70% of their diet and also their non-diet items come from the forest products. For instance, here are mushrooms collected from the wild, and this is a wild fruit collected from a big tree. This can be peeled off and eaten, but it has a very sourish taste. But the children, they would climb the tall trees and collect these fruits. Not very sweet, but tastes good. These Naga chilies are the hottest in the world, and it is recorded with the highest scovels in the world. It is hotter than the Mexican chili, and they call it Naga King chili. If you just eat one, it will burn your mouth like anything. But Nagas, they have chili eating competition also, so they can consume a lot of hot chilies. After the silk is removed, you can get these young silkworms, which are considered as a delicacy. And these are wild vegetables foraged from the wild from Nagaland, And Nagas, besides this wild vegetable, eat 1,000 and more other plants, and they are very nutritious, purely organic, and they don't use any kind of chemicals or fertilizers for growing them. So they used to live more than 120 years, 100 years. There used to be many centurions. There is so much biodiversity of edible plants that it boggles your imagination.
Each of the 16 major tribes in Nagaland used to eat about 200 different kinds of leaves. Through intermarriages in recent times and through meetings in market towns, the tribes have exchanged knowledge with each other. Therefore, today, there are at least 1,000 different leaves which have been found to be edible. Most of these are collected from the forests. Many are also cultivated.
From the non-cultivated variety, they have things like ferns, which they collected from the jungle or the forest. And ferns are eaten both raw and cooked. They say ferns are good for healing some diseases like piles and things like that. I had an accident a few years back and my collarbone got broken. Then I went to a doctor. The hospital doctor advised me take a lot of frogs and also crab, because these items, food items, contain a lot of calcium, magnesium, and they also have healing power. So I took those food items, and fortunately my bones got healed much faster than expected.
The Nagas are simple, straightforward, hardworking and honest people with a high standard of integrity. They possess a strong sense of self-respect and rarely submitted to anyone. A hallmark of their character was their hospitality and cheerfulness. Traditionally, they lived in villages. The village used to be a closely knit unit consisting of households of different clans. Today, the importance of the villages and their social structures is getting eroded as large commercial towns are rapidly coming up. This is bringing about drastic changes in the values and lifestyles of the people. Naga society was classless and casteless. Women traditionally enjoyed a high social position with a pivotal role in both family and community matters.
In the olden days, Nagas were self-sufficient in all aspects, except for things like salt and metal. They were independent economically because their needs were few, and they could satisfy those needs within the means they have.
Weaving is a traditional art handed down through the generations in Nagaland. Each of the major tribes produces shawls with their own unique designs and colors. The Naga people love color, and this is evident in their colorfully designed shawls and headgear. Weaving is an intricate and time-consuming work, and each shawl takes at least a few days to complete. Designs for shawls and wraparounds called mekhala are different for men and women. Among many tribes, the design of the shawl denotes the social status of the one who wears it. The Nagas are expert craftsmen. Their dwellings are made of wood and straw, and these are ornately carved. Each tribe has a unique way of constructing their huts. A common thing in all the tribes is that they decorate the entrances to their homes with heads of buffaloes. The many crafts of the Nagas include basketry, wood carving, and beadwork. The Naga tribes have colorful folk songs and dances. Ancient oral traditions are kept alive in these songs. The Naga songs are both romantic and historical. There are also seasonal songs which describe the various activities in a particular agricultural season. Folk dances are usually performed in groups and in synchronized fashion. Dances are usually performed in festivals and religious occasions. All dances are accompanied by songs and war cries by the dancers themselves.
The earlier Nagas, they were simple, happy people, and whatever they had, they shared in the spirit of community sharing. Actually, there should be change. No society is static, and every society has to be dynamic. But that change has to be at your own pace. You need technology in this modern world. You need computerization. Your children have to also learn to be at par with others. You have to communicate. But at the same time, you should not sacrifice all your values, your traditions, just to be at par with others.
Nagaland remains till today one of the few places where people live in close contact with nature. In the midst of the commercial and fast changing world, the people of Nagaland are an island of simple and harmonious living. Perhaps many of the problems of the modern world could be solved if we learn a few lessons from our tribal cultures.
Thank you very much, Sushant, for an excellent screening. So good of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is so much more to life than just motor cars and aeroplanes. Yes, motor cars and aeroplanes are so important, and they fulfill such fundamental and important functions in the world which we have created. But simultaneously, it would be so good if we could also have tomatoes that have flavor, fruit that has flavor. Uh, we retain our contact with the living world of the forest. There is such a great living world out there in the forest. There is so much there. And therefore, the entire range of life, from the modern till what goes back to a very ancient period, all of it could perhaps be combined. Perhaps you could take what is good from so many different sources, and all of it towards actually having a life which is actually fulfilling, which is actually happy in every way. I would be very happy to answer any questions that I may be able to. You could put them in the chat box, and Sujata will read it out.
No question has come up as yet, but there's a comment from Cheng Sochiat saying absolutely fascinating. It's like living back to 1,000 years. Utterly fascinating.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you appreciated this.
Krishna Burli, thank you, Benoy, for taking us into nature.
My pleasure entirely.
Manju Goel, how is Nagaland today?
Well, this film was not made that long ago. It was made, in fact, 12 years ago. So, as we had noted at that time, towns were coming up and changes were coming into society. So, I'm sure those changes would have escalated. But I do believe that much of what we saw in this film would be continuing as it is. There are very deep roots in this sort of culture which would be continuing. There is a fundamental quality of ethics which simple people have. They have much more, in fact, than the sophisticated people of the world. It is sophisticated people who run into the danger of losing ethical values. So these simple people, till my last contact with them, definitely were fine examples of ethical values. And I'm sure that to a large extent, all this would be continuing. Of course, it's a changing world, and it is really for us to nurture this civilization, to nurture what we've got and to continue it and to learn from it and to share it. Thank you.
Shumanta Sen, it was fascinating to know about the rich diversity of Nagaland.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed that.
Tanushree, no questions except thank you so much, Benoy, for this session. It was truly fascinating.
My pleasure. In fact, I spent so much of my time with classic ancient culture that it's a joy for me also to step aside and to share subjects like this one. Thank you.
Tarun, what is the religion of the Nagamese people? I heard there is a large Christian community there as well. When and how did Christianity reach there?
Yes, there is a large Christian community, and it will reach there at different times. There are different, uh, they are both Catholics and Protestants. And this would be with the mainly after the coming of the British, that missionaries would have gone into Nagaland and taught Christianity. Thank you.
Thank you, Benoy, for such an enlightening and colorful screening and showing us another way of life. It has increased my desire to travel to that part of the country. Is it easy touring the state?
Uh, well, it is. It's not difficult, but one has to. Uh, Nagaland is quite peaceful, and there is a tourism department. There are number of hotels. There are festivals of craft which take place, and I'm sure that you would enjoy it. Most of all, I think you would enjoy being with the simple people, and you would enjoy being in contact with natural foods and nature.
Pema Sarah, did you have an opportunity to visit or stay with the villagers in the forest setting? If so, how did you find it?
I'm afraid I did not actually stay in the forest because I was there to also be shooting my film. So I was located at Kohima and with my crew, and we traveled. But of course, I was in touch with a lot of local people, in conversation with them, in deep conversation and sharing with them. So I think I got some sense of the culture. But no, I did not actually stay in the forest. Thank you.
Pradeep Ahuja, it is believed that there are no birds, dogs, and animals found in Nagaland, as Nagas kill them and eat them.
Well, there are there are all kinds of things that are said about different people, but I think the thing to realize is that all all human beings, or in fact all beings in this world which is according to our philosophic understanding an illusion, which is Maya or Mithya, and all the beings, whether they are vegetative beings, animal beings, or human beings, all of them survive by consuming other beings. So whether we consume the vegetables which are proven to have as much life as the animals, or whether we eat the animals, we this Maya that we live in, we consume other forms of this life to sustain our own. And finally, the philosophical belief is that there is something beyond all this. There is, in fact, a oneness of all that there is, and that there is something which is formless and eternal, something which is beyond all qualities. So, in this, I think we should also have the understanding to uh, be uh, be accepting of the foods that different people eat, and we should have an open mind towards them. So, yes, thank you very much.
Abhirat Khanna, just before COVID, I had traveled across Nagaland into Myanmar border and was amazed to see, along with the traditional way of life, people had started ordering from Amazon new kinds of dresses and footwear, etc. But basic life remains the same.
Thank you very much for telling me about that. And it is also so good to hear that the basic life remains the same. Now, somewhere these new things have to come everywhere. The point is whether we are able to continue the basics, whether we are able to continue the, the deep lifestyles and culture of our lives. And thank you.
There's a comment from Pauline. It says, it looks like the city populations depend on the markets for good natural food. That would be a good thing for both peoples, keeping the culture going.
Yes, they should be there should be so much interdependence and interaction. There should be so much of a contract between the lives of the rural and the town people. In fact, that is something which we should try to have everywhere, all around the country. The development of the cities should not be only at the cost of the rural areas. There should be a constant exchange. Thank you very much.
I think that's about it. Before we break off, let me take this opportunity to announce our next screening, which is on October 14th, same time, 6 p.m. It's a Saturday again. And this time the film is called Sublime Grace. It's about the art of the Gupta period. So do please mark it in your calendars. We would so like to have all of you with us on October 14th. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you all so much, and my many thanks again to the India Habitat Center for the screening. Thank you. Bye bye.